Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's March 28th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And just taking a quick look at the daily chart with the envelope bands on it, we're still hovering right around that midline, still just kind of chopping up and down, kind of another neutral day. So, yeah, there's not much you can say. It's just we still just continued to kind of chop sideways. We're not going up. We're not going down. We're just kind of moving sideways there. You can see how flat everything's gotten here. So I don't know. We did close the last couple of days. We have closed above the midline, or basically the EMA. This middle line is the EMA. So we are. I mean, 3 days in a row we've closed at just above or slightly above that EMA. Um, So it's just kind of hard to know what prices are going to do here. Probably just more of the same. We might have a big sell-off day. We might have a big rally day, but in the end, I don't think we're going far. It's just the way it seems right now. So definitely real choppy sideways action here for now, and it's clear. That's clear on this daily chart. But let's flip over to the uh, 2000 tick chart, and you can see we had the two legs down today, and then we rallied off those lows. So you'll see that when we flip over to that chart. But let's go over there now. Okay, here's a look at our 2000 tick chart, and you can see we had a downtrend here, but it's a very mild. We're swinging both ways, above and below the EMA, so you could trade that both ways if you so desire. Most of your trades were to the downside. Not a lot of trades today, really. But there's a few decent ones in here. We had a 9 o'clock news here, so I kind of marked that out a quarter till until about maybe 15 or 20 minutes after, something like that. So um, it didn't have a big effect. There isn't an effect there, but it wasn't a huge one. So that's what it looks like. It's definitely a downtrend, but it's kind of a sideways, weak downtrend. Early on, I played this as a range, and we still had some range-like tendencies in here, and this still was an important support and resistance area. But we never, when it came to a measured move, we made this first leg, and then the second leg, we had two legs in it, and we didn't quite make that measured move. I'd say that's close enough to call that a success, but it wasn't your typical two legs down, but it was, in my opinion, I think we got two legs down today. It really happened in three swings, but there's two legs down, two almost measured legs down. So that's how I saw it. But anyway, let's zoom in here, go through the trades, and wrap this day. It won't take long because there's not a lot of trades today, but we'll see how it kind of plays out here. Um, But 7 o'clock came. I believe we were just as we were selling off here, and then we're just kind of chopping sideways, and we pull back here. Um, I like this one. Just it's right at the open, and you get that little failed break above this. It's the first break of this trend line, but really, what you have here is a failed second entry long. Notice you're moving down. You get a first move up. You try to go lower again. Then you get a second move up. So I treated that like a failure, right at the key entry point, right at the EMA. Um, it's not a perfect setup. It's also sideways here, and it's like a little failed break higher out of this stuff. So I would have liked to have seen it. Actually, it's not really a second entry, although it looks like two legs back as well. So that was the other thing I liked about it. You can see there's clearly a leg back, a little correction, another leg back. But by the counts, it's a first entry and then a second entry and a third entry. Um, so you can't really call it a second entry, although to me there's two legs here, a little two-legged correction, then another leg up. So there's two legs back there. And I mean, that's like our ideal setup, two legs back to the EMA or trend line in a strong trend or a good trend. And you can clearly see we got a good trend here. So I like that trade. Um, just to try to get a scalp out of it. Turns out to be a pretty good move, and of course you're going to expect the prices to make a new low, so your target's way down here closer to this line somewhere. So again, I marked it green because it's a little more aggressive. It's a little more advanced. So uh, if you're a really good chart reader, maybe you don't look at that as being that aggressive. But for somebody new that's learning and it's not real super experienced at chart reading, that would be an aggressive trade. So I marked it green. We do make a new low, and then we get another two-legged correction and another second entry with plenty of room back to the EMA there. In this case, you probably wouldn't worry too much about the EMA. You're probably going to push back through it. We talked about that yesterday in yesterday's chart lesson. So it's just a second entry long. And this is a little bit sideways, so it's like a little break higher too that'll probably snap back and test that area, even if it's going to go higher, which it does. But it's an easy scalp, and then that takes us into the news quarter till. So just sit tight until this is kind of over. And I would say by the time this trend's over, it's it's looking pretty good to start trading again. And notice too, you got this move up. There's a failure here. It's pretty close to the EMA, but I didn't like it because it's a little sideways and it's right into these other couple of highs here. So it's a little dangerous. I didn't like that one. There's clearly two legs up though, then a break. Plus you got a break of this two-tiered channel. I usually don't draw these secondary retest channels, but sometimes when they're this big, you want to draw them and let them play out too. And this one does, you get a break, and you actually get two legs up to a new high there, and then you get a break of this two-tiered channel working higher that's in the blue. You get the break here and two legs up, and then one more little push. So you might take that. If that didn't have that extra stem there, I might have marked that at least green. But this is too far to be a lower high, but then it tries to go higher again. So when it breaks higher right there and turns down, technically it was a failure when it went lower here, but I like this one when it broke higher right here and then turned down and closed so bearish. I like going short on that one, and if you didn't go there, definitely on that next push up, go short. That's just a lower high, and boom, that thing's off to the races there. That's one of the nicer moves of the day. And then we actually get a break of the yellow channel right here. You actually get another two legs back, and notice here you get a new low. It's a little lower than that one. So first entry, so you get a second entry right there after the break and new high, and then you get a lower high right after. You actually get a reversal, but by that time you've got three matching lows there, a couple of dojis. I think it's too risky. It's a good chance it's going to snap back, which it does, although you would have got a scalp out of it, but you don't know that ahead of time, so I think it's too risky. I didn't draw the little channel here, but there's definitely congestion right here. Let's go ahead and put it on there for the. I try to draw all these because not everybody's used to seeing this stuff. As you get more experience, you'll learn to see this without even drawing these lines, to be honest. But it takes a little while to get there. You can see it clearly made a measured move before bouncing. I don't think you want to go long there. You could call this a new low, and you get a first entry, second entry. So there's a possibility you even go long there, and you had the little double bottom with the failed break lower that bounces right off the support resistance. And you might even say that confirms the trend line, but I'd like to see another touch. So you could actually argue for that one. I didn't mark it just because the reason I didn't is I didn't like these three matching highs. But if it breaks above there, you're probably going to get a scalp because it's going to trap people most likely. And you can see how it rockets up real fast. It definitely trapped people. But you got a new low here too, and then you get another first entry, second entry that fails. And you get it's almost like a repeat. There's the three matching highs again. If it breaks higher, go with it. And of course, it's another easy move. If you recognize that kind of repeat pattern, technically, again, this one's a little convoluted because you do get that extra little tick lower right there, but that still looks like two legs up. So a second entry right there. And there's also at least a triple test there. So and then you get those three matches. It looks very similar to the other one here. So I like it to go long. And if you see all that, then maybe you could mark that blue as well. So a lot to see there though. There's a second entry here. It's your first break of the green challenge. You get 2 legs back. And we talked about this yesterday. Somebody said they would have skipped this trade just because it's below the EMA. Well, you can see all the way up there. That's the first break of that trend line. That trend line is more important than the EMA. So that's a second entry long. If you had a good signal bar here, I'd like that trade. It worked regardless, but you don't know that ahead of time, so you need to follow the rules and let it set up. And then it fails to go higher again here. And this is, if it breaks lower, this is actually a first entry. And if it breaks lower here, it's a second entry. The problem here is you're really close to some support. If you're going to take this one, I would say let it break lower, drop a limit order a little higher back to give you some room. Doesn't end up mattering, but you don't know that, so you got to play it safe. So you probably want to be a little conservative with that one. Again, you might say, hey, there's a reversal here. But there's not a lot of room to that low. I'm not crazy about that one. I would wait. There's a hidden second entry here. It's a leg up, correction, leg up. And then there's another lower high here. But again, it's so close to these lows. I'm just not crazy about it. We do bounce here on the second entry long after a break and new low. And it is right where we've had 3 touches. I didn't mark this one, but again, if you got room back to that EMA, it's one you might take as a triple test. 1, 2, 3. There's a higher low here, but you've already kind of a little close outside this trend channel, it looks like. I'd be real careful with this one because we've traded down here, and this just looks like a lot of sideways stuff here too. And then the next thing you know, you're getting, again, there's a second entry short right there, and then move to a new high, and then it turns down. But look at that big bearish bar. Plenty of room this time to get out. I like going short there. Comes back. It gets a little bounce again at the support resistance line. That was the early support line, actually. So it's the support line. And then that fails quickly, and it turns down. You would want to see it test this from underneath 3 times before you went short, and you do get a you do try to go higher 3 more times, and you also get a second entry short when it breaks lower. It's a fairly bullish bar, which doesn't matter on a failure. But we didn't get down to the trend line here. We didn't get, or trend channel line. We didn't get back to the trend line here. It looks really sideways, so I'm a little leery of that one. I marked it green because we did try to go higher 3 times, and notice how we get a lower high each time. That's telling that we're probably going to drop on down, and we do end up going lower. We actually get a little spike in channel out of that, and it just keeps going. But you just can't trade this down here. I think it's too risky. Maybe you enter here, and then you just don't get any other opportunity, and then it bounces. And you get a really strong move out of there. Comes back to the trend line here, but that's just congestion. It's just a first entry. Then you get your close outside and a new high, and then now you're working down. And here you get a first entry, and then it went higher, and you get a second entry. And this one looks a lot like this one. It's almost a repeat of it. And so again, if you recognize that, maybe you take it. Actually, your entry would be 1 tick below there. It actually breaks higher, fails, and turns down. So I like taking that on the engulfing bar and going short 1 tick there. So this, your stop would have to go above that one. But I'd probably enter 1 tick below that because that's where the failure occurs, and that's the repeat pattern we had over here. And that took us into 230. So as you can see, there's not a lot of trades today. The volume seems to be going down considerably, and so that makes you wonder. There's not a lot of that heavy buying coming back in, it doesn't seem like. But there's not a lot of heavy selling yet either. Obviously, there's more heavy selling than there is buying at times because we were down most all day until we rallied here at the kind of late in the day. So, but you can see there's less bars, so obviously that means less volume. There's nothing here to be concerned about yet. I mean, I've seen much less volume than this, but so it's just, we're just used to all this high volatility and high volume rolling in and out constantly, and it just seems like we slowed down a little bit here. So, and we're getting a lot of sideways stuff. I think people are just don't know what to do. People don't really want to sell at these low prices, but they're scared to buy too. Is maybe what it is. It's just there's so many mixed signals in the economy and what we're being told, and it's just kind of tough trading right now. So uh, anyway, not much else we can say about today. So I'm going to wrap this one up. And we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.